Hello, hello. You're listening to the BBC's Never Fap Deluxe podcast. My name is Julius Reed, coming at you from the lovely British Isles. And golly gosh, it's the Germans. And obviously, I'm Australian. Well, actually, you might not have known that because you may have not heard the show before. But I'm Australian, so you're wrong. You're wrong. This is the Never Fap Deluxe podcast. My name is Julius Reed. Get excited. Tell Mum, tell Dad. It's happening, folks. It's happening. If you're wondering what this podcast is about, well, let me tell you, young, weird, porn addict person. This is a podcast about overcoming porn addiction. So if you're struggling with the porn, maybe you go on a few too many of those raunchy websites, well, I'm here to help you overcome that addiction. And I run a website called Never Fap Deluxe, which aims to help people suffering from porn addiction. So check it out, www.neverfapdeluxe.com. And I do a few other things related. So I run a Discord channel where I run an accountability program to help porn addicts like yourself and your friends, because everyone knows a porn addict. I just look in the mirror and I cry a lot. So get advice and information, as well as commit to daily awareness and meditation practices, because that's really what it's about and what a lot, if not all of it, comes down to. I also run a subreddit, and guess what, people? People like you, buddy, join the subreddit, which is awesome. And if you would like to support the podcast or anything else I do, feel free to visit my Patreon. A pretty penny always goes a long way. I'm crying and dying and singing. So yeah, I do all the sorts of things. So if you just want any of this stuff, just Google Never Fap Deluxe. It's that easy. It really is that simple. Now, a huge announcement I would also like to make, because that's what I do as the announcer, the person behind it's hilarious. I'm in this sort of fort at the moment. It looks, I'm going to have to show you a pic. It's ridiculous. So I'm like in my recording fort, and I've started doing these guided meditations. The Never Fap Deluxe guided meditation series. So yeah, you can find that as a podcast. So on iTunes, Spotify, that other one that I actually upload everything to, Castbox. That's correct. So yeah, you can find it all there. It's also on SoundCloud. So if you're into that kind of thing, go on SoundCloud, type in Never Fap Deluxe, and you will be $1 million. Now, on to today's show. Today we're going to be talking about all things fear, doubt, and failure, because it's something that everyone seems to be struggling with these days, especially those within the porn addict community. You know what I'm talking about. You start your journey, you're feeling great, you're like, yeah, this is going to be so easy, and then you relapse, and then you relapse, and then you relapse, and then you relapse, and then you reach, like 6 months into your journey, and like, okay, I just need to give up, and there's nothing I can do, and what do I do? What do I do? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing, what you can do to be a better person, and how you can really just impact your mental health and change who you perceive yourself to be, because that's such a big part of failure, the identity of failure that we become. So yes, we're going to be talking about failure, and in particular relapse, obviously a huge thing people struggle with, how we can constructively deal with failure, and why it's something we even worry about. What is failure? What is fear? Obviously, we're going to be chatting about that one with Chatty Reed. Not to mention, we're going to talk about doubt, and how doubt is an absolute killer when it comes to basically anything it touches. Doubt is that friend who cockblocks you at a party because he's jealous that you're so much funnier. Obviously, something the Reed can relate to as Mr. Funny 2 years in a row. That's correct. Thank you. I really don't need the applause, but I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Maybe you're on a train somewhere and you're just laughing because I'm so good. Thank you. So yeah, if you're interested in those things, crack open a beer, have a cozy pre-show vomit. Stay tuned, you mother trucker. That's right. And for this episode's mental health update, how did the Reed do over these past 2 weeks? Basically what we do per show is that I talk about my mental health, because that's really what this is about. This is about mental health, how we can get through hard times and also appreciate good times. That's what mental health is about. Positive attitudes, etc., etc. As you can tell, I've got a great attitude. Delicious. Like always, because I'm a bit of a nutter. It's been up and down these 2 weeks, but I just want to say it's been a great 2 weeks. Just the general progress of NeverFap Deluxe has been astounding. I've built, an absolute shit ton of functionality into the website. Like this subheader, man, if you haven't been to the website in like a week, check out this subheader. It's insane. It's like, it wasn't even a website before, but then I built the subheader and now you can like find things more easily. It's beautiful. You got to check that out. Not to mention the amount of people jumping on board this thing. Man, subreddit hit more than 300 members. The Discord, now at 500 plus members. Like, what's going on? Why are people trusting me? I'm clearly insane. So yeah, we've just got a heap of people working together as a community, and that's a great feeling. And, that's why part of the issue is that it can become overwhelming. And I mean overwhelming in the sense of like things are going so well that you can get ahead of yourself. And you know how when you do something really good, like, you finish an essay, or in my case, you finish writing an article or even recording a podcast, and you can become a bit complacent. It's sort of like, I did this thing, now I can sort of relax. Well, the thing is, it's like that's not really a good or healthy attitude, because what you really want to be doing is constantly moving forward, constantly thinking of ways that you can improve and not find yourself in these complacent situations. That's often what happens, for example, when, we get 2 months into our streak. And then, we get so far and we're like, well, I guess, looking at porn 2 months in wouldn't be such a big deal, would it? And then obviously that's what causes people to relapse. And they're like, what happened? And it's like, well, you got complacent. You took your mental health for granted. And it's the same thing with business and this kind of thing. You don't take what you have for granted. You use that as leverage to improve and make yourself better. So yeah, that's the spiel. The mini spiel of the update. So yeah, things going well. Things like my ability to deal with stress has just improved dramatically, because you couldn't I couldn't possibly describe how sort of big NeverFap Deluxe has become. I've got millions of people messaging me. That's not true. It's in the dozens. But yeah, a lot of people messaging me, shit broken all over the place. And it's like, whatever. And that's the thing. You got to treat it like a whatever and be like, I'm giving this 110%. That's the most I can do. People complaining, sometimes you'll have, like, I'll wake up. I wake up at 5:30 to do this thing because, it's big. There's a lot of people who use it, a lot of people who need advice. And, I'll wake up and there's like 12 messages. And it's like, man, how am I going to actually get through all this? I've got 10 minutes to get ready and go to work. But what you do is you remain relaxed. And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to start typing. Whatever doesn't get done or whoever doesn't get messaged, that's fine too, because I gave it my best. So having that positive attitude and also having that sort of neutral attitude as well can go such a long way. And so, yeah, that's what I've been proud of, my ability to remain level-headed and, in particular, stick to my schedule, because that whole complacency thing, like, you do a big thing and you get complacent, but here's the reality of it. There is always so much to do. There's, a million articles to write, so much marketing, so much content, so many things that need to be built on the website. And when you get complacent, that stuff falls behind. So yeah, that's why super important. Working like a mad dog, and helping all these people out, which is great, because that's what life's about. It's about helping others, feeling good about it, cracking a fat. For those who don't know, that means having a boner. So you learned a new thing there. So yeah, things that haven't been going well. I would say probably like motivation on some days, and it's like it's hard to be consistent. Like I probably spend, like all my free time essentially on NeverFap Deluxe, and it's hard some days because you're doing the same thing. Often, like you're messaging people every day, you're writing every day, and it's like there's no variation, if that makes sense. So yeah, it can be hard, but if you sort of maintain balance, it becomes a lot easier. And if you understand your purpose and why you're doing things, it's like, you know what, I'm messaging all these people because that's what's going to help grow the brand. And so if you can focus on that purpose, it also becomes a lot easier. And so that's what it's all about, making things easier with the read. That was the start of the Pokemon theme. Obviously, I didn't sing enough of it for you to realize that. So yeah, overall positive, overall read-alicious. So let's get to it. Today's show, let's start talking about fear, and in particular, how fear relates to mental health, because fear really is sort of that primal emotion that I was going to say negates, but it's not the word. I was going to say the word begates. It's like, is that the opposite of negates? No, that promotes, I think, is probably the word I was looking for. So yeah, fear is what promotes things like failure and in particular the mindset of failure. But yeah, we'll talk about that. So we're here at Never Fap Deluxe. We're all about improving our mental health, obviously, becoming a better person, increasing that girth, all those wholesome things you read about on the internet. And I think part of the issue with mental illness and in particular things like addiction is that there's just so much uncertainty. Like a lot of people think, can it even be done? I've been a porn addict for like 12 years. That was my Australian accent. 12 years. I think that was actually more of a New Zealand one. So yeah, people are so helpless for so long. They have all these questions and they just don't know what it is. For example, can it even be done? Am I depressed, or is it just my addiction? When will my dad return from the war? What is going on? And in particular, will I lose part of myself by getting rid of addiction? All these questions that we don't have any hard answers to, and which for a lot of people sort of manifests itself into fear. Fear of love, fear of life, fear of recovery because of this uncertainty. And it's scary. It's actually scary trying to figure out something you literally have no idea about. And even worse, trying to figure out something which you think you understand, only to attempt to change, that thing and then fail, and then you begin questioning whether you truly understand it or not. And that's sort of the recovery process, because it's like you go into this thing and, you have your ideas of what will work and what won't work. And then you try it and it doesn't work. And then it's like, shit, what do I do? What's the part that didn't work? And then it becomes this game of trial and error. So we have all this uncertainty. It becomes difficult. And, so many questions that just basically end up making you feel helpless. A huge fear of mine when I was approaching my mental health was sort of that I was worried, that I would lose part of myself. And that's a huge fear that people have. They fear that recovering from, their addiction or mental illness is going to fundamentally change them in a way that, they'll no longer be able to recognize who they are. And that's just one point of uncertainty. There's so much in terms of, am I doing it right? And also, am I, is porn such a big deal? That's a huge one where people, as I sort of mentioned earlier, they get their 2 months and then they're like, oh, you know what? Maybe porn isn't a big deal. Watch porn, relapse. They enter the pain train. Choot, choot. Yeah, so don't do that. Definitely a huge part that sort of contributes towards this is that, so many of us have been addicted or even just mentally ill for most of our lives that it's literally all we know. And I know a lot of people with porn addiction, we started when we were like 10, 11. I started when I was 10. And so it's sort of like when you start that young and, you're 26 like I am now, it becomes all you know. And so attempting to change all you know is sort of a bit like asking someone to, burn their house down without explaining that there's actually another house out there for them to live in. And that's sort of, it's sort of interesting, this whole analogy of beliefs, because, 5 years ago when I was doing other things, my mental health, there was this great analogy about beliefs and sort of the house of beliefs. So essentially, if you think of your existing beliefs and understanding as a house of beliefs, so, it's a structure, you've got walls, windows that all represent different parts of different beliefs that you have. Now, essentially what we're trying to do with improving our mental health is we're trying to build a new house, a new structure, a new set of beliefs to live in. And so what we're doing is building that slowly, of course, and then once that's done, then we can move in. Burning down the house, which is equivalent to just running out of your existing house of beliefs without having, a new house of beliefs there, very scary. So that's why we're slowly constructing this house. Don't know if that made any sense at all to you, but I thought I'd chuck it out there. So yeah, huge thing. So what can end up happening for a lot of us with these fears is that we end up developing so many different fears and worries, is that we forget why we're even fearing anymore. Because after a while, what happens is that you simply embrace the feeling of fear. And often what happens is that you no longer even recognize why you're fearing in the first place. And that's when it truly becomes awful, because it goes from becoming, a simple action to then becoming a behavior and then truly becoming a habit. And when something becomes a habit when you're merely doing it out of feeling. It's sort of like, I used to be a chronic weed smoker. And what would happen is, it would be the weekend and you would, even though, you didn't really care about getting stoned or that kind of thing, you would just do it out of the feeling. It's like it would become the weekend and it'd be like, you know what, I've just got this feeling that I should do this thing. It no longer even becomes a thought at that point. And the same thing with porn addiction. We can get home from work, or it could be literally we just wake up and we have that feeling of like, you know what, I really just need to do this. Like, I know I shouldn't. I know there's no benefit to it. I know I kind of just hate it. But because I feel it, I'm going to do it. And it's the same thing with fear. We feel the fear. And so it becomes almost intuitive in that sense. And not just intuitive, but a way of thinking and feeling. So it's a way of thinking and feeling that, reaches a point where it's like, I got to do it. And, that's when it's really game over. And for a lot of addicts, that's probably where you are. You're at that point of feeling the helplessness and hopelessness. So pack up your bags, throw away the keys, receive a few backhands from the reed. You're useless. Bye-bye. That was vicious. Sexy pigeon. The vicious, sexy pigeon. One of my new products I'm developing. It's a pigeon that berates you while you masturbate. So obviously, we're innovative here at the Never Fap Deluxe podcast. So yeah, fear, is what plagues people. And so, in order to get to the bottom of this, we must first understand why people fear. And a lot of people take this understanding why we fear sort of a bit too deep. They go into, because, this childhood decision or, dad did it. No. So the simple and relevant answer to why we fear is it couldn't be more straightforward. And I really want you to sort of embrace this idea. And it applies to basically any other habit or whatever it is you've developed in life. The answer why you fear is because that's what you've been taught. And that's it. That's all behaviors come down to. It's what you've been taught or you've allowed yourself to be taught. So many people get obsessed with the story, with why they're fucked. The reason, and it's such a shame because it's the reason why so many people delay their recovery by literal years, and in a lot of cases never recover at all. They fall into this trap of being like, I need to explain why I'm fucked. But it doesn't work like that. Porn addiction isn't about, all addiction, in fact, isn't about explaining. It's a doing. It's a process of doing. You do this thing every day, also known as meditation. You do it every day, and then you no longer become a porn addict. It's really that simple. But people fall into these traps of being like, this happened. It's because I was molested, or, I had no friends growing up, or, mum emotionally abused me. All things that happened to me. But it's not about that. Sally calling you a slut in high school has nothing to do with why you're a porn addict. Yeah, sure, it was traumatic, but that's not what it's about. None of this has any relevance to why you are messed up today. And that's really what it's about. It's about understanding who you are today so you can change who you are today. That's why we focus on living in the present moment, because that's what it's about. It's about changing the behaviors today, not about trying to go back in time and creating all these illogical fallacies which seem to preoccupy people. So, yes, why you're messed up today is a product of the actions and behaviors you exhibit today, not as a result of what happened 10 years ago. You crying every night and playing with your nipples is because you physically cry every night and play with your nipples. You sicko! And once you realize this, you also begin to realize that what you do today also has the power to change these behaviors, so you no longer have to carry out the same behaviors on a daily basis. We're all about changing behaviors here on the show, and we start that by practicing positive behaviors, such as meditation, such as awareness, such as remaining calm, because that's really what life's about. It's about remaining calm, remaining collected, and having that control over your mind. People ask me, Jules, what is overcoming porn addiction really about? And the answer is super simple. It's about developing control over your mind. If you can do that, if you can focus your attention on doing that every day, you will recover. And that's really all it is. It's about using your conscious mind to change who you are. A lot of people think it's this sort of like, I don't know, like, it's just magically going to go away. That's not how it works. These are physical changes in your mind that you've been reinforcing every single day, possibly since you were 10. You need to actually consciously change them, just as you have been consciously forcing them upon yourself. Forcing them. I couldn't think of a word. I was like, what's a word that's like moving forward, but like kind of a bit sinister, and then I used that word. So I don't, anyway, point is, the Reed rules. The Reed has a massive dick. Have you seen my dick? It's huge. It's sort of like, you've seen an elephant's nose, right? It's like that, but bigger. It's huge. We're not even talking inches. We're talking meters. That's how big my dick is. Of course, pics up on the website, www.neverfapdeluxe.com/Reed's penis. Get excited. So remember, folks, porn recovery is nothing more than a game of changing behaviors. You don't have to be Freud to change a behavior. You just have to be like me, slightly retarded, but fully aware of everything that I'm doing. So I can go, bam, see ya later, bad behavior. Hello, new behavior. Nice to meet you. My name is Julius. I have a boner. Would you like to touch it? New behavior. Obviously, I don't talk to myself and my behaviors that way. But if I did, that's how it'd go down. So, like I've said a million times before, the way you get past these negative behaviors and this idea of fear is with awareness. So you can catch these behaviors, consciously change them. Blah, 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 blah. I won't go into detail about it here. It's a topic I've spoken about extensively, especially if you're up to this episode. You've probably heard it a few times before. Probably like, yeah, you know what? I like the Reed. He's a good guy. I believe a few episodes ago. So check that out. Go film some porn. You know what I mean? Go crazy. It's the Reed gone wild. That was an irrelevant tangent. I actually wrote that down as a joke. I don't know how that was supposed to link to anything. But anyway, point is, filming porn's funny because it's a porn addiction podcast, and I'm telling you to do something that's highly triggering. So go do it. So regardless, the point I'm trying to get at is that, we shouldn't be what we should be focusing on, is the process, which is the how, not the why. Focusing on the why is what you've, I guess, been doing with your fear and your failure. Why can't I do it? Why do I keep relapsing? Why are they crabs? Yeah, that's right. You've got crabs. Focusing on the why isn't going to help you. Focusing on the how, though, which is the process, is what will help you actually change. So, you don't ask these meaningless questions and start engaging, so you start engaging with meaningful change. Man, my Asian heritage, engaging. Yes, no, I said it right then. Fooled you wrong, Granddad, who passed away a long time ago. But he was Chinese, so what's with that? The Reed's got it figured out, so you can too. So in summary, the reason why you fear is nothing more than because it's what you've taught yourself to think and feel, and it doesn't mean anything. Just because that's how you've been taught doesn't mean it's an inherent part of this this massive puzzle that you have to sort of dissect. It's not about that. It's just about sticking to the process. I spent 5 years getting nowhere because I was like questioning myself for no reason. And then once you realize the questioning is actually just an unhealthy coping mechanism, you realize, wow, why am I doing this? And then you stop doing it. And then obviously you become me. 200 plus days PMO free, baby. Don't think about that shit. No, there's no point. And you're literally just wasting your time by doing that. So way we're going to change that is by teaching ourselves to think differently. You taught yourself to be retarded, or maybe, to be fair, in most cases, it's usually things we picked up from our parents. I don't know anyone's parents who meditated, but that's also the problem. I'm going to teach my kids to meditate. I'm going to be like, hey, Johnny, you want to head on down to the I tried to think of something cool. It's going to be like the meditation zone, but then I was like, that's not really a proper zone. I'm going to teach kids to meditate. But I'm going to teach you as well, so I can prepare to teach my kids. I'm going to teach you how to think differently. In this episode, I don't know. I don't remember if I wrote that down, but let's keep going. So yeah, let's dive a bit deeper into fear. And, in order to do that, there's actually a concept that I think is worth discussing. A lot of concepts, obviously, worth discussing. But in this episode, where there's a focus worth discussing, in particular, let's talk about this fear of loss, which seems to be central to those suffering from porn addiction and, mental health issues alike, such as depression. And I talked about this earlier about, this fear of, like, loss of yourself. Am I going to lose part of myself by overcoming my porn addiction? Because, a lot of us develop this sort of sarcasm, this sort of this very dry humor, as you probably have picked up from the read, to deal with the day-to-day. It's like, hey, I'm sad and depressed, but hey, look, I've got a small dick. So yeah, that helps. Even though before I was like, I had an elephant trunk dick, but in actual fact, it's actually not very big. It's below average, for those who genuinely want to know. Hard, I think it's like 12 centimeters. It's not great. It's not great. It's not the kind of thing you put on your CV. At least not my CV. My CV, I obviously put Never Fap Deluxe and be like, hey, look at this thing. People are visiting. And man, so many people going to the website. I think we hit the most active users last week. Yeah, I think we hit like 150 or something in the one day. It was incredible. So yeah, a lot of people going on the website. Let's go back to this fear of loss that I was talking about. Because, this whole idea is actually, it's pretty silly once you understand how much of a false paradigm this sort of idea of loss is. So open your ears, children, because I'm about to come in them, just joking. No, I have been known to give a good ear job, though, and that is obviously not the purpose of this conversation. Yeah, no, giving children ear jobs is really bad. That can send you in jail. Send you to jail? Yeah, so don't do that. Unless if you're really feeling it, then go ahead, just stick it in. Don't do that. Don't do that. So yeah, in order to understand loss, what you really have to do is understand change, because here's what a lot of people sort of don't realize or don't know is that loss is it's one aspect of change. It's not a complete picture. In actual fact, it's impossible to lose anything, because that's not how change works. So we're going to understand change. So here's the fear. The fear primarily that a lot of people have, that I have had, is that by changing, we're going to lose a lot of the features that we love most about ourselves. Our humor, our darkness. If you're a Batman fan, I personally think Batman's a bit lame. But a lot of people are like, oh, but he's so much cooler than Superman. Superman's just a weirdo. But Batman's like dark, he's not afraid to like hurt the bad guy. Piss off. All right, I'm joking. Don't piss off. And Batman's not too bad. Batman Lego movie, though, not great. So yeah, here's the fear that, we're going to lose part of ourselves. That we're going to become like a mindless zombie. No one wants to become the mindless zombie. Oh no, I lost my place. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Where did I? Oh no! Come on, Reed. I lost my place. What am I gonna do now? Gonna sing to keep it cool. That's cool. All right, I did lose my place, but I'm gonna say I didn't. So yeah, we're gonna become, this fear. We're gonna, become mindless zombies, devoid of fun, personality, and sex appeal. Obviously, it's not something the Reed struggles with. The ladies love me, especially dead women. I seem to resonate really well with women who don't have a pulse. Don't know how that works, but I'm rating well. Any dead listeners? Thank you for tuning in. Well, for starters, the thing is that that's not what happens. So you don't become a mindless zombie. You don't become this kind of like devoid of no fun, no personality. Because look at the Reed. He's cool. He's hip. He's fun. He's not desperate for love and attention. Dad, why didn't you come back when you said you were going out for cigarettes that one time? 2 times. Da-na-na-na, 3 times. Da-na-na-na, 2 times. There's that song 2 times. Love it. You got to check it out. So yeah, I'm fun. And I think that's the thing. It's like, I've got it sorted. I'm not like, your average guy. But hey, I'm not addicted to porn. You know what I mean? I'm not addicted to porn. Someone please love me. Why? So obviously I'm just kidding there. But you can do that and not watch porn. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I was like this before, in the past, when I was addicted to porn, obviously. And so, here's the money shot. All right. You don't lose anything when you change. And by change, I mean become aware of yourself, because that's the thing. There's no loss. There's just change. Even in a metaphysical sense, nothing gets lost. It just changes. It's like when I was going to describe like heat dissipation, but then I was like, I didn't really prepare this, and I'm probably gonna ruin it. So yeah. Anyway, the point is, nothing changes. It just transforms. It's sort of like the water cycle. Water turns into clouds, then it turns into water. Just because you're losing water, the liquid on the surface doesn't mean that the water's gone anywhere. There's always the same amount of water on Earth. It's just changing form. And so, yeah, that's sort of the same thing with your mindset and your mental health. It's just changing form. You're going from bad mental health to good mental health, but nothing's changing. Your human's not changing. Your ability to live does change. Sorry, to be happy does change. Oh, well, I guess to live as well. But yeah, you just sort out your mental health, and you get all sorts of yummy goodies as a result. When you figure out change, you also realize that you don't lose your depression or your porn addiction per se. It's like those things don't actually disappear. Instead, what happens is something much more profound than that, and it's this profound aspect which people don't quite understand. So what happens is you don't lose your depression or your porn addiction, but what happens is that you get to now choose who you want to be and how you want to live your life, which is to say, you get to now choose not to be a porn addict, when in the past you were stuck as le porn addict. And people don't realize this. You now are empowered to change however you want and live your life however you want. You're no longer stuck in this cycle of guilt and shame. You now can experience any number of emotions you want. And that's why it's so amazing. I mean, that's why I'm so excited to tell you this stuff, guys, because it's like, I couldn't even possibly describe how empowered I am now. I can do anything I want. I can be happy. I can be sad. And you know what? It doesn't affect me in any lasting way because I don't take it personally. It's just emotions, buddy. So yeah, that's what happens. You don't lose anything. You're still a good person or a bad person, depending on what you want to be. And that's what it's about. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. You don't lose anything. You just change. Change does not imply loss. You will not lose. Well, you will lose if you keep masturbating to porn. But if you stop that, then things might go your way. And, lastly, I'd like to briefly touch upon doubt, because I think I mentioned that word at some point. Because, really, and I guess it's sort of just beating the horse again, obviously, not a sexual reference, but a metaphorical reference. So, yeah, doubt really is no different to fear. There seems to be a lot of doubt about things, and this really comes back to the concept of uncertainty. So this is like a summary. I'm just summarizing. When I was starting out with my journey 5 years ago, I was incredibly doubtful about the positive effects of meditation. I was like, meditation, what is this bullshit? There's a lot of doubt. But here's the key thing to understand about doubt. Doubt really is no different to fear. And it's no different to fear of failure or whatever. It's just a way of thinking. People are like, yeah, but doubt protects me. At the same time, it also hinders you. And what the read says is, why have a coping mechanism that both provides and takes when you can just have a coping mechanism like meditation, which just gives and gives and gives until you're so full you can't have any more dessert. Dessert. Yeah, so that's the point, is that we're really replacing these unhealthy coping mechanisms like doubt. And here's the thing, coping mechanisms, yeah, they do provide, unhealthy coping mechanisms, in fact, all coping mechanisms, well, actually, only unhealthy coping mechanisms do provide benefit. It's like smoking. Smoking does provide some sort of benefit. It can help you relieve from stress, but what we're about is healthy coping mechanisms. Coping mechanisms which don't give and take, but are just all round good. And that's basically what we're playing out here. Meditation is like a cash slave for your mind. The bastard just keeps on giving, and that's a good thing. So yeah, we're all about improving process. That's why you're here. That's why you trust me. That's why Neverfap Deluxe is king, baby. And on that note, let me get back into the accent. Hello. This brings us to the end of the BBC's Neverfap Deluxe podcast. My name is Jolius Reid, here signing off. Please leave us a very British review. I should probably say, so this is the end of the show. Thank you for listening. I did not explain that well at all. Have a very British... I already said that. Please leave a review on CastBox or iTunes or whatever it is you kids are doing these days. leave a review for Uncle Reed. Yeah, if you've got any comments or questions, please direct them to the website. I hope this podcast explained fear a little bit. In summary, fear is a way of thinking. Fear is not constructive, and fear is incorrect. That's right. Bringing out the big words. Incorrect, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, we change fear with awareness, or rather we can identify fear and change it with changing our behaviors, adopting healthy coping mechanisms. So yeah, I hope that made sense. I know it's a bit of a ramble today, but that's cool. Julius Reed, obviously, sexy and capable. So yeah, any comments, direct them to the Discord. If you'd like to join in on the discussion, feel free to, well, as I said, check out the Discord channel. You may find a trove of free pornography, most of it illegal, of course. And not to mention, the subreddit. This is the promotion section. I know you feel free to skip this. I also have a Patreon. If you'd like to shower me in some of that green gold, cover me in paper cuts, baby. Ooh, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was going nowhere. So yeah, thank you for listening. I'll see you later in bed, where we will spoon gently. Hush, my sweet child. The reed must cure your pain.